Hey everybody, welcome to Truth Be Told, on site in Atlanta at the Georgia Organized Retail Crime Conference. Welcome to my good friend Mike Reddington, CFI, podcast guest, podcast host, author of Discipline Listening Method. How's it going?
Great to see you, brother. Thank you very much for having me.
You too. You're speaking today.
I am, yes.
What are we talking about? I know you're closing out the day, so allegedly everybody's going to stay to the end of the conference to hear this guy speak.
We'll see if that ends up working out or not, but the good news is I think I have 8 hours to figure out what I'm going to talk about.
That's true.
So we still have plenty of time. Now, we're going to take the Discipline Listening Method, and we're going to spend time really focusing on how do we apply these strategic and ethical observation and persuasion techniques to the attendees that are here. So with the mix of law enforcement, with the mix of private sector investigators, really help provide them with the context, not just to dump the material on them, but to help them understand when they're having these conversations, well, people should be lying to you and they should be withholding information. So let's not get angry about it.
Right.
Let's use these time-tested techniques to help them open up and help you resolve your own investigations.
Yeah, we've got a lot of law enforcement, we got a lot of private sector investigators. What you just said is important though. People forget it makes sense to lie, right? But we get mad at people. We walk into a room, and when we say lie in your world, it can be even just rejecting a business deal. It can be saying no to a raise, anything.
Or, it could be fibbing about where you are on a project in relation to a deadline. It's really what we equate confessing to in the business education world, if that doesn't sound too lame to say it that way, is sharing sensitive information under vulnerable circumstances in the face of consequences. And when you think about a confession, that's all it is.
Right.
You're asking me to share something sensitive when I feel vulnerable, and there's consequences attached to that. And if you think about it, we ask people to do that dozens of times a day, no matter what we do for a living. And the same process of establishing credibility and helping people save face and understanding the totality of the situation, all of those things lead to helping people feel comfortable to sharing more information. And I can't help, I have to stop myself from laughing in people's faces when they're like, he got mad at me and I got really upset. What'd you expect him to do, dude?
Right. Yeah, when you're delivering bad news or asking somebody to give up bad news, it's probably not going to be an easy conversation.
Yeah.
So, and I know you talk, so in your book, Discipline Listening Method, I know you talk a lot about empathy and rapport building and active listening. But for people that are about to read this or maybe read it and forgot about it, what are some key takeaways you think from what you're going through in this book?
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the Discipline Listening Method, it's really built on two core tenets. Tenet number one is how do we create the communication experiences that our counterparts need so they'll say and do what we need them to do. And the second is how do we uncover hidden value in all of our meaningful interactions. So when you think about the investigations that you still get involved with, and I used to, they're all jacked up by the time they get to us.
Right.
So if we show up and act like we know everything, we have everything under control, we're dead on arrival. So often we need to interact with people in a way where they end up exposing what they need to see, hear, and feel in order to tell us the truth. So we give them that. With this book, it's really the integration of the research and best practices from both the investigative interviewing world and the business communication world to apply these techniques across the spectrum of our high-value conversations in our personal and professional life to understand what are people really experiencing or thinking, feeling when we're talking to them. How do we use that to our advantage? How do we overcome a lot of the myths and stereotypes that I know drive you up a wall sideways when people bring them up to you? And then when we're observing, what really should we be looking for, listening for? How do we apply it? And then how do we engage with somebody so we can ethically influence them, ask better questions, so they honestly feel better about sharing this information with us and living with it after?
Yeah, I think that's a really good takeaway. There's a lot of strategy that goes into these conversations versus just executing it off a whim. And we see that with, I think, experienced investigators or senior business leaders that I'm just going to walk in and handle the conversation.
And it drives me, and then they come out and they're like, well, that didn't work. Yeah, no kidding.
What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. Or he wouldn't tell me, or he said this, or he said that. Well, we very easily could have game planned for that. Yeah. We likely could have stopped it from ever happening. And then we could have had a game plan for how to use it to our advantage when we did. I feel like one of the big things that we were forced to do, well, several things that we were forced to do. One was come to grips with the fact that nobody we talk with wants to speak with us.
Right.
Nobody. The victims, the witnesses, the suspects, the clients, no one wants to tell us the truth. Okay, so now we can use that to our advantage. The second is everything had to be predicated on outcomes. What am I really trying to achieve through this conversation? Yes, I'm trying to get the truth, but it doesn't stop at the truth. What are the litigation litigation impacts? What are the policy and procedural impacts? What are the ripple effects for this investigation and others? What are the legal concerns? So for us, everything was built backwards from the outcomes. And for most people, when they go into a conversation, it's an emotional moment. It's a tactical experience. They don't take that strategic approach to stop and think, what outcomes can I create or influence with this one interaction? And that is in many ways what the disciplined listening method addresses.
That's good. It's an outside of just one singular outcome, right? Whether it's a sale, it's not just today's sale, it's a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Or it's not just today's confession, it's building a better reputation and credibility.
Yes.
Well, I know, so Mike also hosts the I See What You're Saying podcast, and we just had Brett Ward as a guest.
We did.
From WC, so I recommend listening. We're starting to call Mike to the stage here, it sounds like.
They can wait. No,
yes.
Hey, they can wait for Dave Thompson.
A long line. You can't see behind the camera, but there's 100 people in line waiting for Mike to sign the book. We've got him on hold right now. But listen, check out the I See What You're Saying podcast, the book. Where can people find more about Mike Reddington?
They can find the book at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Thank you for asking. You connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be very happy to. MichaelReddington.com is the website for me. The DisciplineListening.com, not the DisciplineListening.com. You think I know my own website?
It's a lot of words.
It is.
Syllables.
DisciplineListening.com is the website for the book. You can sample a chapter and learn more there. Appreciate you checking it out.
Perfect. Last question.
Shoot.
Our whole podcast is about communication. So we have one piece of advice on how communication has impacted your professional or personal career to the better.
Oh, wow. I can only give one.
Only one. We're running out. We got people here asking
This
for
is Dave
autographs.
Thompson's world. We're all just guessing in it. I'll say this because I think it runs counterintuitive to how most people communicate. Patience. Let the conversation come to you. We can talk about outcomes, we can talk about myths, we can talk about contextual awareness and all these things that are super important, but patience often allows all of that to happen. And if we can be patient in a conversation and allow somebody to, in many ways, expose what they're thinking and feeling via their communication, we can open up unexpected routes to unanticipated agreements frequently.
It's perfect. Patience. I'll be patiently waiting your closing keynote.
I appreciate it. You and me both.
Thanks for joining me.
Take care, brother. Great to see you.